Oh, welcome. I am Brianna Medeiros, and I am the Community Engagement Manager for CIEE High School Study Abroad programs. Two common themes that families often ask about are money management and phones while their teen is on program. I am joined today by Melissa Dubois, a global education advisor, to talk about everything you need to know when it comes to spending money on program and cell phone logistics. So thank you for joining me, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me, Brianna. I am excited to be here to help answer some of the most common questions that we hear from families. And just a fun fact, I actually studied abroad with CIE in Spain, and I loved it so much that I ended up living there for 3 years. Looking forward to sharing my insight and answering all of the questions that you have for me today.
Thank you so much. So my first question is for you to outline what expenses are covered by the program, by CIEE, and what should students budget for?
Great question. The program covers all of the essentials. So think of it like an all-inclusive experience. Lodging, 3 meals a day, program planned activities, excursions, and in-country transportation are all taken care of by CIEE. Students will even have international travel and medical insurance included as a bonus. That being said, there are some personal expenses families should plan for. Snacks, drinks, souvenirs, and any activities that students choose to do on their own, like going to a movie with friends or stopping for ice cream after class, those are not covered. We do recommend students come prepared with at least $50 per week for these little extras. And while spending money is not required, we find that students who understand their budget ahead of time tend to have a better experience.
And can you explain to me a bit about stipends? We hear that some programs have stipends. How do those work?
Yeah, absolutely. So most locations don't use stipends because meals and transportation are fully arranged by CIE staff or the student's homestay. However, some program locations may provide a meal or transportation stipend to students instead of eating every meal together or with their host family. If a student is provided with a stipend, they'll be responsible for managing it and ensuring that they use it for the intended purpose. CIE staff will help guide students on how to budget their stipend, but it's important to note that lost stipends or transportation cards will not be replaced. So students need to be mindful and keep track of them.
Another important question that I hear so often is, how do cell phones work while the student is abroad?
Another great question. Well, first and foremost, all students need a phone that can receive calls and texts abroad. This is to ensure that program staff can contact students in case of emergencies. Most program staff will only have a local non-US phone number, and that is the number your student will be in touch with throughout the time on their program. Your student's number will be linked with CIE's emergency notification system. Staff will test that number during the student's early days on program to make sure it receives emergency calls and texts and works properly. I did want to mention that Wi-Fi is a great option. However, phones must be able to receive calls from local landlines and over local networks. With that being said, apps like WhatsApp, FaceTime, Google Voice will not always work, so it's important to ensure that the student has the capability to call local numbers upon arrival in their program location and not rely on Wi-Fi. Families also have a few options to make sure that their students' phones work abroad. Number one, they should contact their cell phone provider to set up an international plan before the student departs. Plan for your student to get a local SIM card, could be another option. It's important to just make sure that their phone is first unlocked. I know that students could technically purchase a SIM card in the country that they go to. However, in some countries, such as Spain, there's a requirement that you must be 18 years or older to purchase a SIM card. So with that being said, I always recommend making sure your phone plan is set up and ready to go before students arrive on program. And then the third option would be to, compare costs to find the best option for your family, since international plans can vary in price, maybe depending on the provider.
Thank you, Melissa. And to finish off, what are the top 3 tips that you have for teens to manage their money wisely while traveling?
Most important thing is preparation. A little planning goes a long way. To break it down, there are 3 key things that families should discuss with their students before they are on program. 1, set a budget. So talk about how much money your student has available each week and what it should be used for, whether that's snacks, souvenirs, or extra activities, and how will they track their spending. 2nd, make sure that they understand how to access their money. Ensure that your student knows how their debit or credit card works. If there are any foreign transaction fees, that's something that's good to look into. And they should know how to withdraw local currency if needed. The last thing I would say would be to encourage smart spending. Talk with your student about making thoughtful choices when it comes to spending so they don't run out of money too quickly.
Thank you so much, Melissa. As you said, though CIEE covers all of the essentials for while students are studying abroad, there are for sure going to be moments when teens are, enticed to buy something, whether it be a snack or a souvenir or an article of clothing that's on sale in the July sales of Europe, right? So it's important to talk to students before they leave, set a budget and set clear expectations. So as you said, they don't run out of money in the first week of program, right? So thank you so much for these tips, and I think these will be helpful for our families.
Of course, and remember, budgeting and phone planning might not sound exciting now, but trust me, future you will be very grateful you listened to these tips.
Yes, for sure.